Hello, this video is about interdiscipline collaboration, mostly in regards to my latest game, Nest, because the only other group project I've worked on this trimester was a little interesting in that the only interdiscipline collaboration we had was our team leader slash pretend client. An audio student who produced the music track for which we were meant to make a game around. And he had such a clear vision about what game he wanted. We were really just delivering the technical stuff, and so the collaboration was very much straightforward. It was discuss what we could do for him in regards to his vision, and then regularly update with our progress and get some feedback. And this project's very different in that I have been very lucky to have a lot of different collaborators on this. I have had 4 active animation collaborators and 1 very involved audio collaborator. In the first week and a half of the project, Jacob and I pitched to Studio 2 and 3 animation and Studio 2 audio. And our first bit of interest actually came from a post I put on Facebook, and Kat and Aiden, 2 Studio 1 animators, were very interested in working on the game. And so I set up a Discord chat, and there was a little bit of back and forth early on, but that increased as I shared more GIFs of the gameplay as it progressed. I like to think I did really well there in getting people excited about the project, and so we kind of inspired each other back and forth with the images we shared on Discord. I wasn't very organized this time around. This asset list I've got here, something I worked on as I went. If I were to do this again, I would use Hack and Plan. Jacob wanted to use the spreadsheets because it was more accessible, but it was a lot of work for me to set up, and I wasn't the only one that was really slack with it. Actually, Jacob was less slack than I was later in the project when I was getting really stressed. So I'll use Hack and Plan in the future just because it's so easy to set up the milestones and dependent tasks, and to really gamify it. I mean, all I've got here in the date complete is some conditional formatting that colors the cell purple if someone actually puts something there. So you can scroll down, and I've also got this this formula here, just counting the entries in this date complete column compared to I can't remember which one it is. I think the name of the task. So in the future, Hack and Plan for sure. I've never been slack with Hack and Plan, but I sure as hell have been slack with this spreadsheet. I mean, if we look at my asset list for Unity effects, there's a few here I haven't updated, and quite a lot I haven't done because I've been very busy testing and tweaking all of the latest design changes, and there's been so much programming work to do. And like last time, I've been teaching Jacob a lot about Unity and how to get the most out of it, and he's been teaching me a lot about scripting in C#. So it's been really good. The audio is probably the thing I've been most involved in. Simon invited me to help him record and clean up some sounds in the Foley studio at school, and that was a lot of fun. I'll overlay some video footage of that now. During our studio time, we synthesized some notification and feedback sounds for the game, and discussed the direction for the music a lot, and Simon has produced some really awesome music, and we both believe it's thanks to that back and forth that we had. I don't know a lot about music, and he doesn't know a lot about the design for my game, so we really have to talk it out. The more we share, um, the better the connection between those two things is going to be. In regards to delivery, I've simply asked that everyone upload their finished products to the Google Drive folder that I shared in the initial email. So whenever they mark this as complete, I expected to see something new in the assets folder. This is our audio assets folder, and here is our animation assets folder. And that worked really well. People knew what to do thanks to my initial email and reminders in the Discord channel. I'll keep doing that in the future. The only thing I'd change is if we look at the Discord channel, I put a general channel in late so we could share the important stuff that we might want to reference. And in the future, I'll put all of the links to the Google Drive and Art Bible, documentation, that kind of thing, right here at the top of the general channel, and just kind of lock out any text editing so I can just have a little list of important links for people to click on if they lost the email or forgot. Now, I didn't think about this when I created the asset list, and I mean, I didn't outline the project pipeline, which was a bit of a mistake because each animator has done things a little bit differently, and that hasn't helped me streamline the implementation in Unity. But Kat and Aiden did try and test the stuff in one game engine or another, and I'm pretty sure Aiden actually had Unity installed and played around with that to make sure it's all working fine. And that's cool, but because I didn't organize to have, like, let's say a shared rig or skeleton for the different birds, people have entirely different shaped birds, and so it's been a real lot of work for me to organize the interaction colliders, which there are a couple of. We've got a few different types of interactions, and it's been really hard to line that up and look neat for each different bird. Would have been no problem at all if I'd really organized the animation work. I could have just swapped the skin to mesh renderer, for example. But certainly next time I will draw out a rig for the things I want if anything's going to be similar, or if I'm going to have a player character that can swap between different avatars. I'm going to make sure that's the same rig. I'm going to make sure that's the same game object, and I'm just going to swap out the skin to mesh renderer and the rigged avatar at runtime if I want to swap avatars. And yeah, I did just ask for the animations to be uploaded to that drive, but in the future I'm going to check to see if the animators do have Unity installed and if they could actually test it, because there was a few funny things that happened to a couple of the models in Unity. Some funny clipping and stretching that weren't noticeable in the animation software used. So, and it's a huge peace of mind thing to actually have an animator hand maybe a Unity game object, like a completed game object, a prefab that we could just drop straight into the repo, or even if I gave the repo to the animators to actually drop their stuff into and have play with. That's something I need to discuss with the animators. I need to discuss how involved people want to be early on. I didn't really think about it. I just assumed I'd do everything, and Aiden and Kat especially was so helpful that I'm sure they would have liked to play around with it in the repo if we discussed that. So if we scroll through this animation text channel, we'll see a lot of concept art being shared and discussion about that. Some research being shared, examples for color palettes. Like I didn't come up with the color palette. I just wanted things to not look like Earth, to look alien. And so the color palette that Aiden has shared here, we've kind of stuck to, and I think it's really helped the game look unique. And that came from discussion with people that know more about visual art than I do, and we wouldn't have that strong style if it wasn't for that back and forth. I started sharing references here when the guys actually got to modeling, so they had a really good example of the consistent style that I was hoping for. I thought it was really important to have a lot of images to use as reference for the models, because I was concerned that all of the models would look very different between different animators, and I was afraid of things looking very much out of place. So yeah, I think that's worked really well. I've been really surprised at how low poly everyone's work has been. It's a real challenge to do low poly art. It's like pixel art. It's every vertice, like every pixel in pixel art, every vertice means a lot and needs careful consideration. And I think they've done crazy well in that regard. This was me getting feedback regarding the controller mapping images we might want to use, what style kind of suits. And even if the others weren't too interested, it was really good affirmation for me to have, and to remind them that I really care about their input in the project. This is Aiden's amazing bird that we've made the fast bird that's better suited to catching prey, because it really looks like it's suited for life on the shoreline catching fish. And just that kind of difference, that Cat's first bird here looks very strong compared to Aiden's sleek bird. That helped inspire me to, I guess, produce the mechanics of speed and strength being the only important ones. I was pretty unsure at this stage where the adaption thing was going, and just seeing those different birds as they modeled them before they even rigged and animated was really inspiring in regards to design, surprisingly. Here's some more of my design ideas being shared visually, and some more concept art, because after they'd finished and I had shown them some GIFs of their work moving around in the game, they're really excited to do more, which was very flattering. We implemented, I think, this crystal thing, these reeds and this dragon fruit, because I thought they all looked very alien and could definitely go in. So in the future, I'll certainly be as involved as I was with the audio. That's worked really well. But I think I'll plan out how more technical things like animated models are going to be implemented, and exactly where the responsibilities begin and end for each individual on the team. I really hope to work with more people that are half as involved as Kat, Aiden, and Simon were on this project. If you guys watch this, thanks a lot for all your involvement and inspiration on the project so far, and I hope you like what I've made. Thanks for listening.